All right, we're gonna get some things shifted around here in the garage. Pulling Hefty out right now. Oh, it sounds so good. Got these stinky little tires on here right now just to move it around. Don't worry. Big meats are over here still. Gonna get her over where the back of the Roadrunner. Roadrunner is always a charmer. This thing starts right up. Not even foot on the pedal. Boom. Up and running. Can't really ask better than that for a big block. Let's get her out. Power steering in here. It's got no fluid because the power steering box is totally leaking. So one of the things I gotta fix on this car. A little hard to turn. Hefty's now in. A lot of work to do. Pretty lofty plan for this weekend. Let's see what I get done. And over here on the fab table, got some more tools and supplies. Gonna paint the headers. Yeah, it'll burn off after a little while, I know, but may as well do it while I do it because I want to paint the engine Chrysler blue, which is a correct color for a 383 during those years. And I went and grabbed myself a belt and disc sander from Harbor Freight too, because why not? Extra tools in the garage. So I took home a bag of goodies from work, things that I'm normally using when I fabricate. It can dig it. And I mean, what else more could you ask for? The perfect shop here at home. Like, this is an absolute dream. Living with Caleb and Rob, having space like this to work in, going from a 1.5, 2-car garage where I could barely walk 2 feet around the side of my car, and it's amazing. So everything I could possibly need to do this job is here right now. The only thing that gets in the way is time. Not even so much time. The only thing that's really gonna get in the way is broken bolts and unforeseen problems, which we know is gonna happen. And it's 5:30 on Friday. I've got the rest of tonight, then tomorrow and Sunday, and let's see how far we get. The only thing I've got to fix, as you can see, this leaf spring is hanging crooked. The left side is higher than the right side, and that's because the last people that went through here and added in this additional frame rail to do the tub job they did, they actually welded in the cylinder that the bolt passes through on an angle, so the left side is higher than the right. So what I'm gonna have to do is pull off this part of the shackle, actually cut it, and add a filler piece of metal in to extend it downward, so this way that these are 2 equal lengths. So then the spring will be hanging evenly. What else needs to happen here? I've got to fabricate up here new mounting points for the top of the shocks, because you can see they had single shear points, and those 2 studs that were up there broke when it hit some hard bumps driving across country, and luckily I made it like that. Additionally, I want to change this brake line because it's never been changed. The top of the axle hit the chassis here on some hard bumps, and I'm afraid it's going to break, so we'll replace that one. The other ones have been replaced for whatever reason, just never got around to doing this one. And in order to get to that shock mount area, I'm actually gonna have to remove my ghetto 15-gallon Anheuser-Busch keg, drain this tank, move it out of the way so I can cut some metal away from the inside of this trunk area to access welding in that new shock bolt location. So it's gonna be a lot of work here, doing stuff in the rear of the car and up front this weekend. All right, so I got the car jacked up right now, and now what I need to do is determine how much length we need to add to the shackle. And you can see there's a pretty good amount of difference between it. So even just looking underneath it here, the level, right about there is level. So you can see there's a good about 3/8 to 1/2 inch difference. So I'm gonna make an actual measurement here and then determine how much I have to cut and then add to this side of the shackle. 1, 2, 3/4 inch. Shackle undone, and then we can actually splice it up and add the section piece into it. All right, got the nuts off this side of the shackle, got this off, and I lowered it down the jack. So now the leaf spring is down and hanging. We're gonna extend the shackle. So I'm gonna use this old piece of this old shackle, salvage this old shackle, and take this piece here and use it to make my splice for, if I can find it, the new shackle. I'm super lucky to have an at-home shop like this to be able to work and do all this stuff. So yeah, this is just like being at work, honestly, but the relaxation of my own pace and time. Hand controls on here, a little bit different setup, but it's also pretty easy to use. Get myself a nice fusion weld to start. And then we'll come back and I'll hit it with a little bit of filler rod to see if it's some extra string. Sweet. All right, so we're finished welding up here. And it's time to go test fit this thing and see if it's done what we wanted to do on the car. So while we let that welded piece cool down, I'm aiming here to break these two fittings on the brake lines loose. I'm hoping to get them so we can change this one. Oh, all right, good. Moved. And this one here. Sweet. And I even left my brake line wrenches at work with this work. So good. So what's gonna have to happen here is now I'm gonna have to bleed the brakes after doing this, unfortunately, but it shouldn't be too bad. This is one of the rear brakes, so it shouldn't take too long to bleed it out. And we'll get this line replaced here. Here's our new line. 3/16, 16 by 20 thread. Should be good to go. This is twisting. Yeah, because the line is a little bit seized in on itself, but that's all right if we break it because we're replacing it anyway. There we go. That's that part of the line. Get this one. Again, normally the line actually rotates around the fitting, but this has been on here so long that it's kind of rusted onto itself. Got that all tightened up. Now I'm going to just gently bend this line into shape and get it connected over here. Put a little outward bend. And there we go. And we'll go ahead and start threading. Tighten her up, and that should take care of that. This is more of a preventative maintenance thing. Again, I never got around to doing this one side. Why, you might ask? Well, I broke the other side when I was trying to get this car down to a car show at Carlisle, Pennsylvania a couple years ago, and actually made it. I was doing something under the car and I smashed the line and broke one. I was in a rush that night and I just didn't get around to doing the other one. So here we go, placing this one just in case. And this is what I was talking about here, something real heavy, leaning up against the pedal, which is essentially locking all the fluid inside the brake system. And yeah, some air drew into that area, and obviously the brake line itself has no fluid in it right now, but it should ease the amount of bleeding, I think. Ultra lucky here, because usually these things are almost impossible. By the time you ever need to bleed your brakes again, these have rusted up and seized and you can never get them off. It looks like, yep, I am able to break this bleeder valve free, which means we can actually bleed this right now. You can just see is I just simply popped the cap off the brake reservoir, checked the fluid, added just a little bit, put my big weight right up against the pedal, pumped it a few times, and that pedal is now being held down as if I got somebody sitting in there. I know there's all sorts of self-bleeding kits and whatnot. This is just another way of doing it. So right now, as I pop this open, you should see some brake fluid spray out, or air. I don't know if you heard that little ch, but that was the air in the line right now. So closing it, and I'm gonna go pump the pedal a couple more times. A couple times. Good solid pumps, as if it's somebody sitting in the car holding the pedal down for you. There we go. I think that eliminated all the air. We'll do it one more time and it should be good. Unfortunately, in the final tightening of that little bleeder valve, it actually snapped in half, so gonna have to run to the auto parts store. Nonetheless, let's try our new shackle and see if this solves our weird alignment issue. It's taking a little finagling to get it back in alignment here, but there we go, it's pretty close. Finally got that on there. Had to pop that one off to do it. Pain in the butt. I don't know if that filmed or not, but I had a pipe yanking on it, just all sorts of leverage. Got it. Well, it's better than it was, but it's not 100%. And I really don't know what the heck they did with the geometry of everything underneath this car. Things are a little bit crooked still. I don't know. It's a hot rod. I bought this car for $3,000, put $4 grand into it, making it fun and drivable. It's not gonna be perfect. It's ugly underneath, but it looks cool and it sounds good, and that's all I really care about. So it's better. We'll move on to the next thing, which will be draining the fuel tank so then I can get behind it, move some metal out of the way, and then make new mounting areas for the shocks. Time for a little mini bike cruise. Beautiful sunset out here. Roadrunner is currently almost done being stripped down. And yeah, just the randomness of my life, and I love it like this. It's had us a beautiful sunset. Over here barbecuing up some burgers. Yeah, can't ask for much better. Ultimate car guy place, man. It really is. Hell yeah. If this place was mine, you know there'd be like 70 cars here. Maybe someday. Next mission now is to drain the gas tank. That's right, my 15-gallon Anheuser-Busch keg. I think I've got like 10 gallons in here, so I'm hoping it'll fit in these 2 jugs. All right, not too bad. Definitely been sprayed worse. I knew much better than to fill up last week. Slowly but surely we're getting this thing drained out. I always do stuff like this. Oh well. So I think I underestimated or overestimated how much fuel was in here, which makes me happy. Looks like we only had about 2.5, 3 gallons in here. So we'll trickle this last little bit out and we'll get the tank out. Time to get the tank out now that it's been drained. Yeah. Bet you probably don't know many, if not any other people with an Anheuser-Busch keg as their fuel cell. So I'm here drilling through where the old studs were. They had studs welded here, so I'm gonna try and drill through so that way it's actually a hole, and then you can pass a bolt through it, and then I'm gonna have a piece of angle iron that'll come here and down and make another hole on this side so you can pass the bolt straight through, and the shock will come up and it'll meet right there, and you'll have 2 points of shear instead of 1. Slowly but surely, persistence will pay off here. I guarantee it. Getting through. And like I said, persistence pays off. Drilled through, and now it's even the right size to fit the hardware that I think we're going to want to use through it. So we'll don't mind the hackery. I'm going to fix that up. So like I've been talking about single shear points, before what they had basically done was welded a bolt right here, which meant right where it was welded, when it hit a hard bump, the shock impacted upward and snapped it. Now right now, the way I drilled this through, with this bolt passing through, it would probably be stronger to use it just like this. But I want to do a little bit better and still build up something right here so that the bolt can pass through on the other side as well and have 2 shear points. So instead, you know, got the bolt here, and now what I want is something going across the front face of this so that the bolt can pass through it, put a nut on the other side, and now it's got 2 points contact. Rough cut, but essentially that's what I'm thinking right there. We'll weld it here and here, and the bolt can pass through, and it's going to give it a lot more strength than it had. These little mini belt sanders are such a lifesaver. So I'm holding it pretty much right now in place where I want it to be. Drilled the hole through it. You can see how the bolt's going to go through it too. And hang it here in the truck. I'm gonna get this thing welded up, and it's midnight, I think, something like that. And screw it, we got a job to do here. that bacon. Now we'll just get the rest of these welded up and we'll be good to go.